Feedback. I've spent a lot of time talking to people, women especially, who are trying to figure out how to connect more deeply with men. Feedback. And one of the things I hear over and over is this question: what do I say to make him really feel something? Not just attraction, not just lust, but emotionally pulled towards you. Feedback. And I always say, don't overthink it. It's often the simplest word said the right way that hit the deepest. There's this one thing I always share: feedback. And it consistently gets that pause, that moment where a guy stops, looks at you a little differently, and something shifts in his body language. You say to him, feedback. I feel so safe when I'm with you. That's it, that one sentence. Now I know what you might be thinking. Safe, real. Feedback. That sounds so basic, but let me explain why that phrase is so much more powerful than it appears on the surface. When you say this to a man, you're not just giving him a compliment. Feedback. You're reaching right into the part of him that wants to protect, to provide, to be someone's rock. And let's be honest, most men don't get that kind of emotional feedback often. Feedback. A man can go his whole life doing things for people, solving problems, being strong, showing up, and no one ever actually tells him, feedback. You make me feel safe. It's like a secret need that rarely gets acknowledged. This taps into something primal. Deep in the masculine energy is the desire to be trusted, to be relied upon. Feedback. To be seen as strong, not just physically, but emotionally. And when you give that to him, it's not about stroking his ego. It's not manipulation. Feedback. It's about affirming something that connects him to his deeper sense of identity. It's about letting him feel that who he is, when he shows up for you, makes a difference. Feedback. And it only works if you mean it. That's the trick. Because if you just throw that line out there trying to get a reaction, he'll feel it. Men might not always articulate emotions well. Feedback. But they're not dumb. They can sense when something's performative. But when it's real, when you've been out with him and he walks you to your door and you look at him and say, feedback, I feel so safe when I'm with you. That hits him in a place no one else gets to. It's not just the words, it's the vulnerability in them. You're letting him know that he affects you, that he makes a real impact, and most importantly, that you've noticed. Because here's what happens all the time. A guy will try to be thoughtful, do the little things, check in, be protective, feedback, and no one says anything. They just kind of expect it. So when you actually stop and say, hey, that thing you did, that made me feel taken care of, it sticks. He remembers it. Feedback. What's fascinating is how this simple statement can soften even the most emotionally guarded guy. I've seen it in real time. A man who's been playing it cool, holding back, suddenly leans in. Feet back. His body language opens up. He goes from seeing you as someone he's dating to someone he wants to protect, someone he wants to keep. It's also an invitation. Feedback. When you say, I feel safe, you're not just complimenting him. You're telling him that you're letting your guard down. And that right there is where intimacy begins. Feed. Most relationships don't fall apart because of a lack of attraction. They fall apart because no one feels truly seen. So feedback, when you offer him a moment where he feels seen as a man, not for his achievements, not for what he looks like, but for the way he makes you feel, that's magnetic. That's unforgettable. Feedback. This is especially powerful in a world where strength is often misunderstood. A lot of men are taught not to show emotion, to stay in control, to always man up. But what most of them want is not to be invincible. They want to be trusted. And that phrase, feedback, I feel safe with you, tells him that he doesn't have to prove anything or perform. He just has to be, and that's enough for you. Feedback. And I get it. Some people worry that saying this makes them sound too soft or like they're giving away power, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Feedback. Real power comes from being able to connect without fear, from being able to express something honest and beautiful without trying to calculate the outcome. Feedback, that kind of emotional intelligence is rare. It's powerful and it's attractive. Now, the timing matters. Don't just drop this into a random conversation about pizza or parking. Feedback. It lands best when it's connected to an action. When he does something that shows care, whether it's walking you through a crowd with his hand on your back, feedback, or picking up your call when you needed someone. That's your moment. Look him in the eyes and let it come out naturally. Don't over-rehearse it. Just be in the moment and say, feedback. You know, I feel really safe with you. Then pause, let it land. What happens next can be surprising. Some guys will get quiet, like they're processing it. Feedback. Others might smile and pull you closer. But what matters isn't the immediate response. It's the residue that line leaves behind. He'll be thinking about it later. It'll echo in his mind. Feedback. He'll start to feel something that goes beyond chemistry or surface level attraction. He'll feel valued. And that's what keeps someone coming back. Not just because you're beautiful or fun back or interesting, but because you see him in a way that no one else has. So don't underestimate the impact of a few honest, intentional words. When spoken with sincerity, feedback, they unlock a completely different level of connection. And in a world full of noise, that kind of clarity, that kind of emotional directness, it's rare, it's powerful, it's irresistible. Feedback. You know what's interesting? Most women don't realize that men are a lot more sensitive than they appear. Not in a fragile way, but in the way they absorb meaning from the smallest interactions. Feedback. They won't always tell you what they feel. Half the time, feedback. They might even fully understand what they're feeling, but they respond powerfully when a woman speaks to something deeper in them. And that's where this next part comes in, feedback. Because if you really want to capture a man's heart, not just his attention, not just his desire, you have to learn to speak to who he believes he is at his core. Feedback. Every man has this identity he's trying to live up to. Sometimes he's not even consciously aware of it, but it's there. It's the inner image of who he wants to be. The protector, feedback. The provider, the leader, the guy who figures it out, who takes care of things. And most of the time, the world doesn't really reflect that back to him. Work, pressure, feedback, life, those things just test him, criticize him, push him, but very rarely do they say, hey, I see who you're trying to be, feedback. And I believe in that version of you. So when a woman comes to his life, and even in a small moment, feedback, reflects back something that aligns with that identity. Something like, I trust your judgment, or I love how you always figure things out, or that hits differently, he stops. It lands feedback, not because it's flattery, but because it tells him he's being seen for what matters most to him. And here's the thing, this isn't about ego stroking. You're not trying to butter him up. Feedback. You're not playing a game. This is about communicating appreciation in a way that actually matches the way a man sees his value. Feedback. A lot of women will give compliments based on their own language. Things like, you're so handsome, or you're so smart. And those are nice, of course, feedback. But if you want a deeper emotional pull, you have to speak to the parts of him he wants to be recognized for. His character, his drive, his instincts, his strength. Let me give you an example. Feedback. Imagine he's telling you about a stressful situation he had to navigate at work. Maybe a conflict with a colleague, or a deal that nearly fell through, and how he had to step in and solve it. Feedback. Wow, that sounds intense, and that's fine. But what really draws him closer, it's when you say, I love how calm you stay when things go sideways. Feedback. You always seem to know what to do. That right there. That's what makes a guy lean in emotionally, because you're not just listening. You're understanding, feedback. You're mirroring back the traits he wants to believe he has: leadership, capability, steadiness under pressure. And when you reflect that feedback, you're not just giving a compliment. You're aligning yourself with the most meaningful version of who he wants to be. Men fall in love with the way a woman makes them feel about themselves. Feedback. Not just how she looks, not just what she says, but what she brings out in them. And when you make a man feel like he's already enough allowed, like he's already doing something right, feedback. You create space for him to show up even more fully. He doesn't have to perform. He doesn't have to overcompensate back. He just gets to be that man he wants to be, because you're already telling him, I see it, I believe it. And that's rare. That kind of emotional mirroring doesn't happen often. Feedback. Most people are too focused on themselves. But when you tune into the moments where he steps into his strength and you acknowledge it, not with over-the-top praise, feedback, but with something genuine and specific, that builds connects trust. That creates a space where he feels safe to open up more. Even something as simple as feedback. I love how you handled that. After he diffuses a tense situation or takes charge of something, can be incredibly attractive, because again, feedback. You're not just commenting on the action. You're affirming the identity behind it. You're saying that thing you value about yourself. Feedback. I value it too. And when that kind of recognition comes from a woman he respects, it sticks. It stays with him. He starts associating you with the best version of himself. Feedback. And that's when a man starts to think, I don't just like being around her. I'm better around her. She brings out the version of me I want to be. Here, that's powerful. Here's something else. Back. When you say, I trust your judgment, or I always feel calm when you're around, you're also giving him our responsibility. Feedback. You're not just saying he's good. You're showing that you rely on him. And a lot of guys, especially the emotionally mature ones, they rise to that. They love it. Feedback. Not because they want to be in control, because being relied on gives them purpose. It gives them direction. When a woman expresses it makes them want to live up to that trust. Feedback. But remember, it only works when it's real. Don't say these things just to get a reaction. Don't fake it, because men can tell. If you don't genuinely trust his decision-making, feedback. Don't lie about it. But when you do see that strength, that grounded energy, that calm leadership, say something. Don't assume he knows you appreciate it. Say it out loud. Give him the kind of feedback that no one else is giving him. So much of this is about learning to speak a man's emotional language. And that language, it's built on trust, respect, feedback, and reflection. Show him that you see his intentions, that you recognize his effort, that you respect his strength. And he won't just feel closer to you, he'll want to show up even more. Feedback. It's amazing what changes when you start speaking to the man behind the mask, the man underneath the surface. Model feedback. Because when he feels that emotional recognition from you, when he feels seen in the way that aligns with his best self, that's when you become unforgettable. Feedback. That's when you stop being just another woman in his life and become the woman. Feedback. Let me tell you something most people overlook completely: timing and tone. We live in a world obsessed with what to say. People will memorize lines, rehearse phrases. Feedback. try to find the perfect words like they're working a magic spell. But what if I told you that the how and when matter even more than the words themselves? You could have the most beautiful feedback, heartfelt thing to say, but if you say it at the wrong time or with the wrong tone, it just falls flat. Worse, it might even feel manipulative or insincere. Now think about this feedback. How many times have you said something meaningful to someone and they didn't react the way you hoped? Maybe they brushed it off or gave a lukewarm response, and you walked away thinking, feedback, what did I do wrong? But maybe it wasn't what you said. Maybe it was the energy behind it. Let's take that phrase we talked about before. I feel so safe with you. It's powerful feedback. But imagine saying that while scrolling through your phone, barely looking up, mid-conversation about dinner plans. It's not going to land. But say it while you're walking beside him at night. Feedback when it's quiet and he's just reached out and taken your hand. Now that phrase means something. It's in sync with the moment. It belongs there. And because it feels natural, it feels real. Feedback. That's when it sinks in. See, men, just like anyone, are tuned into energy. He may not talk about it that way, but he feels it. The tone of your voice, the look in your eyes. Feedback. The way you touch his arm when you say something, these subtle cues either draw him in or push him away. So when you speak, you're not just using words, you're creating a moment. Feedback. And moments are what people remember. Not quotes, not lines, moments. And if you want a man to feel something deeper, to really feel it in his body, in his nervous system, feedback, in his heart, you have to give him the feeling first before the words even come out. You do that with tone, with timing, with presence. Let's say you want to tell him, feedback, I trust your judgment. That's a big thing to say. That taps into a deep part of his identity. Feedback. But it won't feel real if you say it when he's distracted or when the moment doesn't support that kind of emotional weight. You have to wait for the right moment. Feedback. Maybe he just handled a situation gracefully, whether it was something with work or diffusing an awkward moment with a friend, and you've been observing him quietly impressed. That's your time. Feedback. That's when you lean in a little and say, not as a performance, but in a kind of low, honest voice, I really trust your judgment. Feedback. You always seem to know how to handle things. You let that hang there. Don't rush to fill the silence. Don't laugh afterward. Don't minimize it by saying, well, feedback. Most of the time, just let it land, because in that silence, he's absorbing it. And in that absorption is where the emotional pull lives. Tone carries weight. And most of the time, feedback. It's not the words that change the dynamic between two people. It's the energy the words carry. If your voice is too casual, it sounds like a throwaway line. Feedback. If it's too intense or overly sweet, it can feel performative. But if your voice is calm, steady, warm, if it matches the truth of the moment, it feels grounded. It feels sincere. Feedback. And sincerity is magnetic. I've seen it so many times. A woman says something beautiful, something true, but she rushes it. She's nervous. Feedback. Or maybe she's trying to protect herself from seeming too into him. So she masks it with a joke or a shrug, and the moment gets lost. It slips away. Feedback. But when she just owns it, when she speaks from her center, when she allows herself to be soft, to be real, that's when everything changes. Men respond to that kind of authenticity. It's rare. Feedback. Most people are so busy trying to impress, trying to be clever or witty or charming. But being present, being grounded in your energy, feedback, saying something simple with full sincerity that hits harder than any rehearsed line ever could. You also don't need to overdo it. In fact, less is more. Feedback. Sometimes the most attractive thing you can do is pause. Say something quietly. Hold his gaze for an extra second. Smile just a little. That silence, that stillness, it creates space. Feedback. And in that space, he leans forward. He invests more of his energy. He starts to feel more feedback, because you're not throwing a bunch of stuff at him. You're giving him the opportunity to sink into a moment with you. Think of your words like music. The pauses matter. The rhythm matters. Feedback. You don't want to just hit notes. You want to create melody. You want it to flow. And that flow happens when the timing is right, when the tone is aligned with how you actually feel. That's when your words become unforgettable. So instead of asking yourself, what can I say to make him feel more? Ask, how can I say it in a way that feels real, true, feedback, and connected to the moment we're in? You don't need magic words. You need to be tuned in to the moment, to yourself, to him. Because the truth is, he's not remembering the script. Feedback. He's remembering how he felt when you said what you said. Was there softness in your voice? Was there warmth in your eyes? Feedback. Was there quiet confidence in the way you let the words land without apologizing for them? That's what stays with him. That's what replays in his mind when he's lying in bed later. Feedback, thinking about you, not just the phrase, but the moment, the timing, the tone, the energy. So next time you feel the urge to say something powerful, don't just focus on the line itself. Slow down. Feedback. Get present. Wait for the moment. Let your tone do half the work. Let silence carry the weight. Because when you combine the right words with the right feeling, feedback, that's when they become unforgettable. That's when he feels it in his chest. Feedback. If you really want to make a man feel something unforgettable, something that shifts the entire way he sees you and feels around you, feedback. There's one thing you can do that cuts through everything else. Create contrast, emotional contrast. See, feedback. Attraction isn't just built through connection or chemistry or even common values. It's built through emotion, and emotion thrives in contrast. Feedback. A moment that moves us is almost always one that surprises us, and the people who leave a lasting impression on us are the ones who show us they're not just one thing, they're layered, dynamic. Feedback, unpredictable in the best way. Most people fall into this trap of thinking, if I'm sweet and supportive all the time, he'll love me. If I'm low maintenance, chill, easy going, feedback, he'll want to be with me. But the truth is, that's not what makes a man stay emotionally engaged. Feedback. A man doesn't fall in love with pleasant. He doesn't fall for someone who's just agreeable. He falls for someone who keeps him emotionally awake. Feedback. An emotional wakefulness from experiencing the full spectrum of who someone is. You've got to show him your light and your depth, your sweetness and your fire. Feedback, your ability to listen, and your willingness to challenge him when something doesn't sit right. That's what makes a man lean in. That's what makes him feel feedback. And when he starts to feel that emotional rise and fall when he's around you, he stops seeing you as just someone he likes and starts seeing you as someone who moves him. Feedback. Think about your favorite songs. They don't just stay on one note the whole way through. They rise, they fall, they surprise you, they soften in one moment and explode in another. Feedback. That's why you replay them, because they take you somewhere. You want to do the same emotionally. And this isn't about being performative. Feedback. It's not about trying to be unpredictable for the sake of it. It's about being real, letting your full emotional range come through. If something delights you, show it. Feedback. If something annoys you, don't suppress it out of fear he'll think you're too much. The moments where you express authentic feeling, especially when it's unexpected, are the moments that create emotional texture. Feedback and texture is what makes someone irresistible. Let me give you an example. Let's say you've had an amazing romantic evening. He's been charming, thoughtful. You've been laughing. Feedback. Connecting. It's soft. It's lovely. Then suddenly, in a quieter moment, you get real. Maybe you look him in the eye and say something like, feedback. I like this, but I'm not someone who gets swept up easily. I've had moments like this before that ended in disappointment. So when I say I'm enjoying this, feedback, it's not just a throwaway line. It means I'm letting my guard down a bit. So now you've shifted the tone. You've gone from light to depth, from flirtation to emotional honesty. Feedback. And that contrast, it hits, it makes the moment memorable. He's no longer just enjoying your company. He's learning something real about you. And better yet, feedback. He's feeling something more intense because you created a change in emotional tempo. Or flip it. Maybe you've had a serious conversation, something deep, maybe a little vulnerable. And then out of nowhere, you pull him in, smirk, and whisper something playful in his ear. A tease, a light joke. That flip from depth to levity creates a whole new dimension. Feedback. You're showing him that you can navigate both worlds, that you're not locked into one emotional state. And that's magnetic. Because here's the truth, emotional one notes are forgettable. Feedback. Even if someone's nice, kind, attractive, if there's no contrast, no surprise, no emotional movement, the relationship stays flat. It doesn't evolve. Feedback. But when a man experiences you as someone who can both open up vulnerably and call him out playfully, someone who can sit with pains and celebrate joy with her whole heart, someone who can be calm one moment and passionate the next, that's when you become unforgettable. Feedback. You're not trying to impress him with drama. You're giving him an experience, something real, something he can feel, because attraction that lasts isn't logical. It's emotional. Feedback. It lives in those moments where he doesn't see the next beat coming, but he's completely captivated when it arrives. And don't be afraid to challenge him either. That's part of contrast. Feedback. If he says something that doesn't sit right with you, tell him. If he's being too surface level, call it out. Say, that's cute. Feedback. But I want to know what you really think. Don't be confrontational, just be honest. Assertive, warm and grounded. That moment of challenge, when delivered with love and presence, adds depth. Feedback. It shows you have standards, that you see through surface charm, that you're not afraid to say, I want more from you than just words. Yeah. And guess what? The right men love that. Feedback. They crave it because it shows you're not just there to admire him. You're there to see him, to pull more out of him. And that's what builds emotional tension. The good kind. Feedback, the kind that creates chemistry that lasts beyond a few dates. Emotional contrast also gives you power, not in a manipulative way. Feedback, but in the sense that you become the person who brings color to his world. You're the one who creates moments he replays in his mind, moments that feel alive. When he's with you, he's not just checking boxes, he's feeling, he's thinking, he's leaning forward. And that's what makes someone fall, not into infatuation, but into connection. Feedback, into that addictive sense that being around you is not only exciting, it's grounding, it's expansive, it's real. He can be all of himself around you. Feedback, because you're showing all of yourself too. So don't dull your edges. Don't hide your fire to make yourself more palatable. The more you reveal your full emotional range, the sweetness, back, the sass, the fire, the softness, the more he gets to feel the difference between you and everyone else. And that difference, that contrast, that's what makes you unforgettable. Feedback, that's what makes a man say to himself, she's not like anyone I've ever met.